We saw the S&P 500 finish with another strong month in June, but it ended the month on a weak note here. For the week, it was actually down slightly after it made a new all-time high. And here we could see that on Friday, we actually saw a huge reversal candle and engulfing candle here. And looking at Apple, we see Apple put in the 2 consecutive week of lower high and also lower low. So if Apple take out this week's low, I wouldn't be surprised to see Apple come down and test this area near this 200 level. And also looking at NVIDIA after the post 10 to 1 split, NVIDIA make this all-time high and got a reversal here right now. It seems like putting in a little bit of an evening star type of a pattern on a weekly basis. So I wouldn't be surprised, NVIDIA could come back down and test this 100 area. And we take a look at the indexes performance on a month-to-date basis. You see that the NASDAQ 100 and the NASDAQ Composite is still on the top of the list here with a gain of just around that 6%, while the S&P 500 finished the month of June with a gain of almost 3.5%, and the transportation and also the Dow Jones Industrial just slightly above 1%, while the New York Stock Exchange Composite and the Russell 2000 finished the month with a loss. And if we take a look at the weekly basis, we see that the transportation in the Russell 2000 is actually the best performer for the week, while the NASDAQ 100 was the worst performer. Well, pretty much it's unchanged. You can see that the Dow Jones Industrial, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ 100 is pretty much unchanged for the week. And if we take a look at the 11th sector in the S&P 500, also notice on a monthly basis for the month of June, we see the technology, consumer discretionary, communication, and healthcare. Also, the real estate sector did quite well. They were all above 1%, with the technology is somewhere around 7.5%, and the discretionary 2.5% or so. So even the communication is almost 3%. But if we take a look at the weekly basis, last week the top performer was energy and also communication. Other than that, the other 9 sectors finished the week with a loss, with the worst performer is the utility. And we take a look at some of the industry. We're in the sector, we notice that the for the month of June, the semiconductor sector was the top performer with a 8.4% gain, followed suit by the oil. It gained 6.38%, and the biotech 2.5%, the TLT long-term bond about 1.5%. But if we take a look at the weekly, on a weekly basis, the banking sector is actually the top performer, with the oil exploration and also oil follow a little bit behind that. But we notice that the TLT, the long-term bond, the home builder, semiconductor, retailer were all finished the week with a loss. And if you take a look at the ES, the E-mini S&P 500 on this volume profile chart here, we see that it is balancing inside of this range here, right? This 5560 and 5510 area. So we'll see, would it be able to move above that? Remember, we still have that Globex all-time high that hasn't been tagged yet. We came close to it last Friday. It came to within 3 points into tagging that 5588. So if it could break above this balance area, then look for that particular level to get tagged, and possibly looking for a new all-time high for the S&P 500. But if we see this breaking down, then we could see it come down and fill this gap and possibly get down to this 54 area here to fill this gap down here. And if we look at this market profile chart of the E-mini S&P 500 futures, here's the Globex all-time high. So right now it's pretty much balancing inside of this area here. So if it come up, then we'd be looking at this 1x type of a major move, and that would push it up to the 5660 area, or it come down and this basically will push it down to this 5440 area here. So we'd be looking at this gap to be in play if we break out of this balance area. Looking at this daily candlestick chart of the E-mini S&P 500, we see that the ES is pricing in the upper range between 55.95 and the 55.86.50, and the low range is between 54.78 and 54.55. So it's not much different than the previous week. Now, I also noticed that the upper range here is encapsulating the all-time high, the Globex all-time high. So if we see this move up here and break out of this balance area, could see this take out the Globex all-time high, or if it come down, then we'll basically come down to this, this gap fill area. And what I did is also I put in a major move on this range here, this balance area. And if we take a look at this 100% major move on the upside, then it will put it up at near the 56.65.75. But if it's 100% on the downside, then we'll be looking at 54.32.50. And for the SPY, the market is pricing in the upper range between 551.80 and 549.70. And the lower range is between 538.70 and 538. So we're basically looking once again for the all-time high to get taken out. Then we'll be looking at this upper range to get tagged. And again, I'm basically looking at this balance area here. And I did put in a little bit of a major move. And we could see that 100% will bring it up to 557.80. And the downside, 100% on the downside is 534.76. And looking at the sentiment chart here, we see that the VIX is still down below this 20 level and sitting near the 12 area, between 12 and 13. And also the put call ratio is below the 0.75. So obviously the market participants are still quite bullish and also quite complacent. And looking at the internal, the up-down volume ratio really did not do too much. It's just kind of fluctuating around between that 1.5 plus or minus. And also the advanced decline didn't do too much. Also, it's only maybe a few hundred plus or minus. Now, we did see a little bit on the upside for the number of stock making a new 52-week high on Friday. Was 130 stock versus 45 stock made new 52-week low. So that's a little bit of a positive for a bearish day on Friday. And we are also seeing a slight positive divergence between the cumulative AD line and the S&P 500. And for the NASDAQ market, the NASDAQ 100 might seem a little bit of a bearish candle here on Friday, but if we look at the up-down volume ratio, it's actually not too bad throughout the week, except on Monday and Friday. But the advanced decline also shows some pretty positive on Thursdays, a little bit of a broad market participation on Thursday here. So it's not a bad looking NASDAQ. Now, we are still seeing more 52-week low than 52-week high in the NASDAQ market. And the huge negative divergence continue, even though we saw a little bit of a positive divergence on Friday. But we still have to deal with the fact that there is this huge negative divergence between the NASDAQ cumulative AD and the NASDAQ 100. Although we saw a negative finish last week on the S&P 500, but the fact remains that the market is still in a bit of an uptrend here. Yeah, we could see a little bit of a correction or pullback in the month of July and possibly come down and fill this gap down here near the 5,400. But I believe, with the Globex all-time high still untagged, we most likely will see this all-time high from the S&P 500 to get taken out in the near future. So if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to go check out my newsletter at Substack. The link is smtraderca.substack.com. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And also, if you're new to this channel, click on to subscribe to support this channel. Thank you for watching and good luck on your trading.